My name is Mahi Klosterhalfen. I'm CEO and President of the Albert Schweitzer Foundation for our contemporaries. The foundation was started in the year 2000 by a lawyer and entrepreneur called Wolfgang Schindler, who after a while of being a successful businessman, he decided that he wanted to invest in greater goods too. He had a very clever idea, I think, and that was that he didn't want the foundation to have his name because he said, nobody knows me, nobody has to know me. I want a name that people can relate to. So as many people know, Albert Schweitzer was always very fond of animals. He spoke against misusing animals, mistreating them. So Schweitzer was a great name for him, and he contacted Albert Schweitzer's daughter, Rina. And Rina gladly gave her permission for us to use Albert Schweitzer's name. Albert Schweitzer was one of the most famous philosophers in Germany and also in the world, I believe. He won a Nobel Peace Prize for his works. He's mostly known for what he won the prize for, his work in Africa, setting up a hospital basically in the middle of the jungle and helping people there who had no means to help themselves. And what many people don't know, but what's getting more and more widespread is the knowledge that he spoke out for animals all the time. So in his hospital, he was not only treating humans, but animals as well. In his discussions, he realized that following his ethics, it was the only solution for him was to also become a vegetarian. And he wrote certain letters where he said, it's our job to speak out against eating meat because it's so much unnecessary harm. So Albert Schweitzer was a great friend of the animals, and I think that's why it's great to have him as a kind of a patron for our organization. So now we try to use our name and our work in the best way for the animals. And to us that means we focus on the area where the most animals get abused by humankind, and that's factory farming. So we totally focus on factory farming, on getting rid, for instance, of battery cages, and also spreading the idea of vegetarian and especially vegan eating and living. So our most important projects are, for one thing, working with companies. So food companies, we realize, have a huge potential impact in terms of harming and, of course, also in terms of benefiting animals. So we talk a lot to them to make sure that they harm them as little as possible, and they also promote more vegan eating. And we've been very successful in convincing companies to stop using battery cage eggs. For instance, in Germany, in the supermarkets, you won't find battery cage eggs anywhere to buy. Also in products like cookies and cakes and noodles, whatever, most eggs that are now used are not from battery hens anymore. Of course, we know that cage-free hens are not free from suffering, so we also work with the companies to have more and better vegan options. And usually it's a very important and good first step to talk to them about animal welfare. And the connections we have made, we use to promote vegan eating. And we've now also worked with many supermarket chains, with many catering companies. We're now making progress in that area too. We tried a lot of different approaches, and I personally have made many mistakes in terms of communicating to people and maybe sometimes also to companies. So when I first became a vegan, I was a very hardcore vegan. I mean, I'm still very passionate about it, but I realized that if I'm too passionate and a bit too direct to people, that sometimes can close more doors than it opens. So I think it's important to get a foot in the door and try to be as friendly as possible when talking about these issues. We have had situations where friendliness didn't get us anywhere, and then we kind of decide we take further steps and put pressure on the companies. But if it's possible, we want to build a long-term relationship, and we achieve that by being as constructive as possible. I learned that it's always important to understand the person or company you're talking to and to find out how they can benefit from taking the right steps. So we always make sure we know their market. We know the studies that show that people want more vegetarian and vegan options, and we try to explain to them that this is not just good for the animals, but also good for the company, for their bottom line, for their earnings. And it's good as a corporate responsibility initiative that's becoming an overall topic in Germany. Companies want to be more responsible. So we also show them not just animal suffering, but that also there are environmental aspects that are very important, health aspects that can benefit from less animal product consumption. We try to show them the whole package and to show them that they can benefit. And I have learned that this works very well, and this is a recommendation to try. On the other hand, I've seen that it's good to have a movement that's very varied. So having organizations that are friendly is very important, but sometimes you need organizations that put pressure on others. And having the right mix in a country, I think, is very important. We've also visited a couple of schools. We found out that if you go there personally, it takes too many resources. If you have one or two people who are full-time activists in terms of visiting schools, they can work forever and still only reach a fraction of all the kids out there. So right now we're thinking about how can we have better reach, and one option we are looking into is developing materials that teachers can use and then work together with the pupils and spread the message that way. Networking to us is very important. We are already in touch with many organizations across the globe. We work closely with many organizations in the United States. I myself am also on the board of directors at Compassion in World Farming, a big international organization that takes care of factory farming and wants to end it in the foreseeable future. And we also have some contacts in Europe, and we're always looking to expand this network. And we've learned a lot from other organizations, and I'm glad to say that other organizations have learned from our approaches and put them to good use in different countries. So it's a great benefit to network. When we talk about other organizations, the big ones, the first one comes to mind is the Humane Society of the United States. They are probably the biggest animal protection group in the entire world. And they have a department dedicated to ending factory farming and also to spreading more vegetarian and vegan eating. So we work with them quite a bit. We work with groups like Mercy for Animals, they're quite big in the US, Animal Equality, which is a group that's active in several countries in Europe, in the United States, in India, for instance. And these are some of the main and biggest groups we work with. We've just finished a successful campaign with a US group called the Humane League, and that was about getting Mondelez, the third biggest food company in the world, to go cage-free. And they will do that, so they will stop using battery cage eggs in Europe, the US, and later on worldwide. We always, as I mentioned, looking to expand our network and find organizations who are like-minded, who are results-driven, and try to work with them as good as possible. Political progress in Germany is quite slow on the animal welfare and vegetarian and vegan front so far. The current government seems to mostly be interested in getting the food industry and the animal production industry to kind of agree by themselves on what they should do next and how they should improve things. They're not that keen on improving the laws, which is quite sad in our view. We have certain contacts in politics, but we wish things would go a lot faster. So we are hoping for the future ministers to be a lot more concerned and more animal welfare friendly, and also not just by speaking nice words, but by taking the right steps, such as improving the animal welfare law in Germany. When you look at the animal welfare law in Germany, it has some good insights into that animals shouldn't be killed for a good reason, for instance. The question is, what is a good reason? To us, it's just eating them is not a very convincing reason. We have certain paragraphs that work quite well in our animal welfare law, and also animal welfare became part of the German constitution. You can see things are moving in the right direction, but right now they're moving quite slow politically. Our website is albertschweizerstiftung.de. Unfortunately, right now it's only in German, but we're working on relaunching our English website. In terms of working together, I think it's always important, if we have organizations or personal interests, to find out where they lie, and to then find out, are there projects where networking makes a lot of sense, and if so, every organization out there should feel free to reach out to us, either about corporate outreach or also about reaching the main public and spreading vegetarian and vegan eating. So first of all, thank you for everybody who cares about these important issues, about helping animals, helping the planet, making us more resourceful for the future. I think what's very important, what I've learned personally, is we have to look for what works and not focus too much about our philosophy behind it, but focus on results. That, to me, is a very important message. Thank you for your work, for spreading, making interviews, spreading the information, and yeah, thanks again for everybody who cares.